Good afternoon. Hey there.
Good afternoon.
What's
I'm not I'm not feeling really sick, but I'm sick.
Oh no.
So I'm like constantly blowing my nose. So gonna be a lot of muting and going off of camera, I think,
It's okay.
because of
Is that the real Norman beer?
Whatever that means.
Well, somewhere along the line you shared your link, so people sometimes use it and come in as Norman beer who aren't. Welcome, folks. You're pretty early. We usually get started around 12:35 my time, so hang tight. Welcome, folks. Thanks for joining. We'll get started here in about 3 minutes.
Aaron, is there any way to join this meeting directly rather than going through the registration gateway?
No, you have to go to the registration to get the link, and then the link works for every meeting in the year.
Right, but it doesn't work for Otter.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it doesn't even give me a different link. I have to join through Zoom. For those folks who just joined, we'll get started here in about 1 more minute. I suppose the Friday before a long weekend isn't usually a good time to hold a meeting like this. I assume lots of people are off today. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to today's Torus community meeting. I'm Erin Serwinski. I manage learning engineering efforts at the Open Learning Initiative and product manager for the larger EdTech ecosystem called Open Simon for the Simon Initiative. So glad to have you here. Today's meeting will be about certificates. So in the past, we've had a need for generating certificates. Right now, we do this in Legacy through for course completion. But as we start to build the system and the infrastructure for Torus, interested in hearing what you all have to say about what you would like to see occur, what maybe you've had experiences with in the past, or would like to have as a way to design, deliver certificates to students. So some questions to get us started. Would you like to offer certificates, and how would you like to offer those? What are features of other digital credentials that you might have noticed or that you've worked with before that you'd like to see in place for OLI courses? What kinds of courses would you like to deliver certificates for, or can you imagine even this happening across multiple courses as for a form of certificates or certifications for whole curricula? What might be some criteria for achievement of certificates? What are some levers that would trigger certificate achievement, as well as any issues we have to think about around verification? What kind of control would you like to have for certificate designs? And then what are the best ways and how would you like those to be delivered? Those are just some suggestions of how and where to start the conversation. So thanks, Dora. I'm glad you were able to get your otter up and running. So who'd like to kick us off? I know there's some folks here that I already know are highly interested in delivering certificates for their courses. Anyone would like to start? So how about answering the first question? Is anyone here interested in delivering certificates for their courses?
Uh, yes, like as you already know that we are offering certificate through uh, OLI Echo, and now we have transitioned to Torus. Michael has written his own script on how to generate certificate for the Learn Lab certificate courses. But if Torus has this feature like integrated with it, it would be much easier to maintain rather than to generate every time for a student and then send it to them.
So, can you talk a little more about what features have been designed as part of your certificate generation right now? Like, just walk me through how it works.
Yeah, so right now how it works is before they are eligible for certificate, they at least need to do a project or a exam. Both of them require some kind of instructor grading. So once we have graded that, then we count uh, we enter that grade in OLI in form of summative assessment. Then we calculate some percentage weightage for their participation in the discussion forum and their overall quiz score across different modules. And then based on the total score, if it's more than 75%, then Michael has the script on the Learn Lab website where if you just enter a row on student name and what course they took, it will generate a certificate with a unique ID. And there is later, if anyone wants to verify that whether the certificate someone is showcasing is authentic or not, they can use that unique ID to check whether the student record exists or not in the database for Learn Lab.
Gautam, I have a quick question. Is that public? Is that a public facing checker, or do they share the ID with you, presumably, and then you check the database manually?
Uh, so it's not manually, but it's also not public. I think Michael is hoping to make it public sometime because the reason we even got this was I was just telling Michael about the feature where I got Coursera course certificates. So anyone can verify whether the certificate are authentic or not using my ID when I'm showing the certificate on LinkedIn. So Michael maybe wants to make it public some later time, but right now it's just private. But it just requires entry of the unique ID. So
Okay. But that entry field is not, it's only available at the moment to Michael.
yeah, it's on WordPress, so it should not be hard to make it public. I just think Michael has been too busy to explore it more. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know anything more about how you can link these into LinkedIn? Like, do you know how that works or what's required there?
Uh, so when I took like Coursera certificates, they would generate two things. One is a PDF of certificate which has a unique ID, and I can use that unique ID in a particular Coursera page where they verify different certificate authenticity. They also generate a unique link in Coursera with end of some identifier. If you go in that link, you see the certificate, uh, you see my certificate, so you know it's valid and someone did not like fake it or something like that. Yeah.
And then you can use that unique link to paste it into your LinkedIn profile, and it'll
Yeah.
what will it do? It's just a link that someone can go to verify, or is it a
Yeah.
link that shows like a little thumbnail or something like that?
So in LinkedIn, when in the certificate section, there is a field for putting a link for your certificate credential. And if you put there, then there it automatically generates like show credential and it opens a new tab and take you to the link so a recruiter can tell whether a certificate is original or not.
Thanks for that. Thanks for talking us through that. That was really helpful. So right now you're just generating it by course,
Yeah.
knowing what you know about certificate infrastructures. Like, is there any place that you know of that would generate certificates across multiple courses?
Mm,
I'm just wondering if that exists.
yeah. I cannot think of it right now. One more thing I forgot to tell was we are also having the date on the certificate, like what was the date they earned the certificate. So it's not only by course, but also date. Yeah.
As a program that generates these certificates, did you have control over designing what they look like? Or is it, if it just has name, date, what it's for, and a unique identifier? I assume you'd want some logo or something on it too, right? Or is that
Uh,
possible with your current system?
yeah, it's possible with the current system. It's very close to the Learn Lab certificate that we were getting through Echo.
Mm-hmm.
Try to closely replicate it. Yeah. There is like logos and signature of instructor and their name.
Cool. The instructor. And then thanks, Kim, for that information as well. I was hoping this would automatically. Okay. So do you know how you selected the threshold, or did you just decide that 75% is just a good, like, do you have any information about how you might have came to that? Can anyone think of other types of thresholds besides percentage, uh, getting 75% on the assessments across the module? Can anyone think of other ways that certificates might need to be generated?
In a in a system where you don't have to demonstrate proficiency, but rather just having participated a certain amount, I can imagine that. Where you don't have to attain a score. You really just have to prove that you did the work that was laid out, and I guess there would be a score, quote unquote, associated with your the amount of work that you had done, but that it's not really a proficiency number.
Lauren, did you have something to add? Lauren, you have a hand up? No. Okay. Um, let's see.
I wonder if there's a need where earning a certificate isn't tied solely to an individual course, where there's two or three or a whole sequence of courses that one must complete at a certain level of mastery before actually earning a certificate.
Right. I was asking folks if they were interested in something like that. No one's really spoken up, but I can imagine that would be
Yeah,
Be
it seems like
programmed.
a logical, next
right.
next step.
Who is or isn't Lauren?
I'm not Lauren. First of all, I apologize if there was some confusion because I was like, you're asking if Lauren raised her hand, and I was like, what's going? I got the link from Lauren because
Yeah,
I didn't realize it logged me in as her. So my apologies.
it's okay. But welcome. Did you have a
Thank-
hand up? Did you want to say something?
Yeah,
What was your name?
I'm Rotem Gutman, by the way, just for
Nice.
disclosure. My apologies there. I was very confused. For some of the certificates, this is not here, but in some other work that I've been doing, we have certain portions, certain questions that are mandatory. So if those particular questions are incorrect, you can't get the certificate. So there's certain ones that are critical, and then there's a threshold. So you have to have like 80% correct, but these certain safety critical ones, if you get them wrong, you're not getting the certificate because we can't let you use the system.
Great.
So having some way of flagging those would be useful.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you're are you from the Cloud Lab folks?
No, I saw that's from my Software Engineering Institute
I see.
appointment. That's I have two hats. So.
Great. No, thanks for that. I hadn't even thought about that, basing it on specific questions or specific work that needs to be accomplished in order to get the certificate. And then go ahead.
Oh no, I was asking if there was interest in hearing more about what some of the other certificate offerings out there were, because we had done some work previously over on the SCI side comparing, various certificate and credentialing options from all sorts of COTS and GOTS offerings. So if there's interest in that, I can see if I can get that released to the group.
That would be amazing. Yeah, I would love to have.
All right, I'll check in on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Aaron, I could also imagine a manually released certificate. For example, if everything that the student needed to, all the work needed to be submitted for human grading, and then a subjective decision was made.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Today we have a workaround for that, which is to create a single activity that is manually scored by the instructor, and then if it they score it at 100 if the student meets it, and then the 100 triggers the release of the meeting of the requirements. But you could work past that workaround by just having that type.
Yeah, for Torus, we could probably even do that because we have instructor graded options. It would be easy to tie the completion to those. But like what you're thinking, I think, is more also like there might be additional work outside of the system that they would want to consider before completion, in which case they would need to be the ones to like trigger the certificate themselves.
Exactly.
Which really, I mean, instructors should always have, I think, that option anyway. Okay. So it sounds like the information that we're going to get from the SCI is probably really helpful. Can you dig into that? For Logic Improves, do you guys have any plans to want to do something like this, like a certificate?
Yeah, I believe we already have a certificate program up on OLI.
Oh, so we already use it.
Yeah.
What we have.
But I'm not familiar with the exact requirements of it.
You're right.
But I think that's a simple pass it, meeting criteria on the final exam or type thing.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we generate certificates now for probably more folks than I even know. Because I don't think I realized that. Oh, thanks, Gotham, for keep putting this stuff in the chat. That's really helpful. Putting this in the notes so that I don't lose it. So for the team, the OLI team, is there any questions that we can think of that might spark some other ideas about certificates? Like, it sounds like most people want to be able to have some sort of design on their own. We probably have to have a certain template that they can do that with. Sounds like verification also needs to be something set up, some reporting process to be able to, for admins also to be able to go in and verify.
Do we have support for multiple, like a batch of courses and then receiving a certificate?
Not at the moment, but yeah, it definitely captured that, if you mean the same thing that like I had said and Darren had said, which is across multiple courses, which is
Right.
Oh, that's interesting, Caitlin. Yeah, having some sort of progress towards certificate, even reporting. Hadn't even thought about that.
We do have something that emulates that. The certificate activity lists all of the assessments that contribute to the requirement. You have met or not yet met the threshold for each of them. It's not a percentage or a meter, but
it's like a check.
It's a list. It's a list of all the it's a list of everything that you'll have to do, and a check or an X indicating where you are with it.
So what Gautam is saying, maybe there should also be included in this like a feedback field where we can provide feedback to students, it looks like.
I think sometimes students will just ask me if they fail to achieve the certificate threshold, then they will ask me what more they can do or minimum they can do, because sometimes they just don't have time or other constraint, whether they should revise their project to improve the grade on it, or whether they should redo some of the quiz or do more discussion board prompts. Sometimes it take multiple email to just discuss that kind of information. If they can just, like I have this requirement listed of how we calculate the score, everything on the first page. But if there was some way to visualize it for the student side also, like, okay, I don't know how to do that checklist thing which Hell is talking about, but even that much sounds useful to do.
Yeah, I think it's automatically generated wherever the certificate is placed, which right now I believe it's in a page, and like at the last page of the course where it shows the list of things and whether they met it or not.
Yep.
But we could have fields there for additional, like if you do not meet, here's what you do, like more information so that you're not having to email back and forth with students so much. Like some of the information is just there. And then what's this about? What's composable certificates?
So composable certificates are essentially, if you get this set of certificates, then you can unlock this other certificate. So it's kind of the inverse of what you were just talking about, of completing these multiple things to get that certificate. And where I've seen that discussed before is with different course offerings towards a certain goal. So you want to get, you have to complete these 3 courses to get this certificate. Just to use an example from the course that I had taught, you get a digital first responders certificate, but you need to first have completed, applied information assurance, network forensics, host-based forensics, and the capstone. And so each one of those would give you a completion. Not everybody does all of it and gets the final thing, but at the end of the day, the ones that don't want to show off the individuals. They want to show off I am a certified digital first responder. And so there's kind of the ability to composite those.
That's really great too. I hadn't thought about kind of like feeding into the stackable credentials and things
Yes.
like that. Yeah. Interesting. I had another question in there about that, but I forgot it. Okay, just getting to text here. Yeah, overrides is something like just basically anything we build in terms of reporting, issuing, or overriding should also have admin capabilities.
There should also be a way to generate a, a, a an example.
Yeah, so that would be great for folks that we're talking through who are thinking about doing it. Like, what does it look like?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Like for marketing purposes,
Yes.
or
Yes.
working with partners?
There also needs to be an easy way to test its issuance while meeting the requirements that does not require you to do all the work.
Wait, say that again. Sorry, I was reading.
So today in the legacy platform, you have to meet all the requirements. So you have to attain a 75 on everything, right? There are some activities that, in order to attain a 75, you can't just go in as an admin or an instructor and grant that score automatically without the work having been done. And that makes it difficult to test whether meeting the requirements results in the issuance of the certificate. So there has to be an easier way to mark each of the requirements in testing as having been met, so that you can test whether it really does trigger the certificate issuance correctly.
Right. Yeah, you've been steeped in this with logic and proofs, because
the example is logic and proofs, where there's no way to just assign. You can't just grant a student 76%. You actually have to walk through every activity and complete it for real, even when you're given the answers.
Right.
So it's difficult to test.
I was just, I think we had on here somewhere about overrides, but I don't see it right now. So, did Lauren drop off already? I didn't answer his question. There's something interesting here too. Like, I don't know enough about how stackable credentials work and how those do you think we need, I mean, do we need a place where people hold all their OLI certificates, or is it just good enough to have them be able to, get it generated and then they can download it or have a link? I'm wondering how much of an infrastructure we have to build that is like a whole, like, my digital certificates area.
Well, we're already going to be hosting the database that includes all of the unique IDs and the names of the people and the metadata associated with their earning the certificate. We'll be retaining that forever. So as long as there is some way of validating each person's claim, via ID, that's the absolute minimum for long-term infrastructure. I think.
Yeah, right. It could be in phases. Like the first phase is just being able to have that verification system that's real simple. And then eventually I can imagine if we start doing things across different curricula. Um
Yeah, if we were ever to be in a position where we were fielding lots of inquiries about the validity of certificates, I think we would be in a good, that's a good position to be in, where we would be forced to now think about a better system for validation, something more efficient.
mhm.
But until then, what else? What do we have? What do we think the minimum would need to be in order to meet the community's needs for assuring the validity of certificates?
Yeah, I think Gotham gave a good list that I put down in the other notes. So that's good. We have some of that.
Yeah.
Let's think a little bit deeper now about like certifications. So in the past, I used to be a certificate and certification lead at the Software Engineering Institute, and there was a big difference between just giving certificates of completion and saying something as a certification. And the people I worked with there that were in charge of the certification uh, basically always said it like it has to be legally defensible if it's going to be a certification. Um, so I'm wondering if anybody on this call has any experience with that and what that might mean or how it might be different. Does anybody have certificates versus certifications that they can talk through um, what they see as the difference and how that might work? I think right now I think certifications are usually aren't as easily generated and verifiable through like online systems. Like I'm thinking of things like, pilots licenses and I don't know. That's just off the top of my head. At the time we were doing certifications and um we wanted to certify instructors and evaluators of the CMMI process and PSB, TSB processes. So or thinking of like, Six Sigma black belt certifications, like those are usually longer term over years, having lots of different credentials and proof of attaining the requirements and outcomes. Oh, I remember now what I wanted to say before, like thinking of things across these or about the stackable credentials, it could also feed into like a competency programs where say we start to work with a school that works with competencies instead of standards or even standards, like how these could kind of build up to show that students have accomplished all the requirements of a full program, right? I know that's kind of what we were talking about before with across curricula or courses, but kind of feeds into, legally defensible certifications as well. If we're going to have these longer term, like imagine a program like a project management certification where it could take a few years to go through all the courses and show levels of attainment across different things. Let's see, or standards. Can you imagine? That leads me to a question of, can you imagine thinking about an organization that issues these? we would probably want some sort of, I mean, if I'm really thinking just outside the box here, would we want some sort of mapping tool like that maps maps the credentials across a larger bucket of standards or competencies? I don't know, is that thinking too crazy? I guess so. No one's really thinking like that. Does Languages offer certificates right now? They do.
Yes, for the independent learner versions, yeah, of French 1, French 2, Spanish 1, and Spanish 2, but the Spanish ones are being retooled.
Thanks for that. Do we know of anyone like UNH? Do they offer any kind of certificate at the end of their?
No, there's one for healthcare IT fundamentals.
Yeah, and the EBM.
And right, evidence-based management. And then the ones that Gautam works with in metals, and the modern languages and logic and proofs. Those are the only ones off the top of my head that.
Can you think of anything that we've been asked for that's different across those? Or anything that we haven't been able to say yes to because we just don't have the right infrastructure for it? Like
yeah, but we talked about them all today. So like permanent hosting or some sort of widget that allows you to insert it into a LinkedIn or a signature that then, connects to a validation area, control over the look and feel. Yeah, all of the one Metals uses one where they have a a human graded project at the end of the class that has a one, they've associated an assessment with it in the system that if the student submits their work and it passes, then the instructor goes in and gives them full credit for that one assessment. Yeah, I can't think of anything that we haven't discussed.
Okay. Anyone else on here, Gautam shared his personal experiences with his certificates. Is there anything that folks want to speak to as far as someone who wants to attain certificates that they think is unique or cool about different other credentials that are generated online?
I think Adam kind of mentioned this before, but he said something about sharing on LinkedIn. We probably want to make it easy to do is, share that'll link to the certificate. Like, this is what I did.
Yeah, link to certificate. So I know I'm a little all over the place, but thinking back to certifications, in terms of them having to be, in my experience, legally defensible. So there has to be also a way for maybe other authoritative bodies to be able to see and view the criteria for certificates of certification to, as more of that way of verifying and validating that they're in fact real and they have a certain threshold that needs to be met and what that might be. So we might even, in terms of like reporting, might also have a like about this certificate or about this, I don't know, kind of like an external facing validation, verification, not just for individuals who attain the certificates, but other bodies who might want to use that certificate in their curriculum or stack of certificates. Don't know how else to put that. Okay. We have gathered a lot of other requirements, in talking with the metals program closely. And Gautam, I do still have a pointer. I do still have the documentation that you all have produced as part of what you want to see happen with the certificate. So I really appreciate you coming and sharing it, even though we have this already. I was hoping it would spark some additional ideas, but it sounds like these are pretty straightforward. It's just, putting the infrastructure together. I would hate to leave before I've thought of it from all angles, right? So the individuals attaining it, the instructors who help to validate that they should get it, system requirements that allow it to be generated automatically based on thresholds, design. I've gotten a lot from you all today just about how to have a view into who's received the certificates and what criteria they've had to meet, ways of linking it out and sharing them. So I don't know if that doesn't spark any other ideas. And I don't know if anyone from the OLI team has any questions that we haven't answered today that they should raise. Yeah, that's a good point, Kim. Oh, that's a great idea. Admin functionality to do reporting on certificates. Yeah, thank you.
That's a really great idea.
Right? See, I knew I was like kind of dragging things out a little bit. I knew we'd have some more ideas pop up. But I mean, that's also about reporting just in general. So we can say, at any given time, we've generated this many certificates, or a program has generated this many certificates. That's great.
Yeah, and I suppose that the unfortunate reality is that we probably need to be able to rescind them if we find out that there has been, that it has been earned through, ill-gotten measures.
Yeah, so turns out,
Yeah, we might have to disable it or flag it.
Use ChatGPT for all of their responses.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. If they earned it but didn't deserve it, and somebody has made that call, there has to be some sort of way of disabling it or suppressing it or flagging it or whatever.
Yeah. Rescind. Yeah, I like that. But you said some other part, be able to challenge.
Yeah.
Because if you imagine this, this is just, we're thinking about course certificates right now, but if this turns into a big, program, then yeah, these are things we hadn't thought of before that we would definitely want to have in place so that we don't have to.
And we will likely be asked whether the blockchain is part of this process for,
yeah,
further verification and assurance purposes. So we need to either talk about why we're not using blockchain, or we need to use it and, be able to speak to it.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, you guys are really thinking of some things that are outside of the box. That's good. Okay, well, I'll keep us on like about 2 more minutes, just in case we think of something that hasn't been thought of yet. But I really feel like we've really beat this from every angle. Probably want the ability to not just have percentages or grades, but also you said progress. But it might be, I was thinking it might be based on scores as well. I don't know if that has that ever been asked for, or is it usually just percentage is good enough?
I mean, they're the same. They're they're essentially the same
Okay.
measurement.
I'm just throwing it out there as if is there a difference. Go ahead.
One other thing is the how this bears on open source. Do we have to package it in a way that makes it simple for somebody who stands up their own instance of the platform to customize it and not use the OLI and CMU template signatures, logos, things of that nature.
Right.
In fact, even within one platform, you need to be able to have different templates.
Or somewhere where you like upload your template here
Right.
and design the fields you want. Yeah. Maybe at first we start out with our own like set of templates and then allow custom.
I'm trying to think about, being good partners with other people who are using our platform and not necessarily forcing them to use our templates.
Okay, I'm going to capture this last text from Kim. And then thank you all. This has been a great, it's been great. Got some good requirements, thought of some things that I know I haven't previously thought of, but gathering this all in place is really helpful, I think, for our dev team to hear what's important and what isn't. I have additional resources that I'm going to pull together. I've been doing a little bit of background research on different credentials as well as what's been requested in the past. We do have that all compiled somewhere. So we'll be adding all of this together and over the next few months, really digging in and, trying to see how we're going to design this out, probably in phases. So again, thanks everyone for joining us today and for your input. And I hope you all have a great holiday weekend. So with that, I'm going to call it a meeting. Definitely reach out to me if you think of anything, and join us for next month's meeting, which will be most likely right now. What's planned is another demo of the latest functionality and Torus.
Thanks.